So one of the things that as candidates and as leaders within our community that we're going to have to do a better job of, and that's not only reaching out to the younger segments of our community, but we're really going to have to help amplify their voice. We need to stop telling them that they're important to us, but we need to show them that they're important to us. And we have to start listening to them when they have questions or concerns. Sometimes it's easier for us to articulate what we believe our issues are, but it's not quite as easy for them to articulate what their issues are. Even if it's situations where they don't understand, well, what does money really do in politics? How do you actually get money out of politics? What does that look like? And we never really share those types of things. What is that volunteerism? How is that important? And what good is it for me to volunteer? And how should I volunteer? And do we reach out to them? I think that we collectively, whether it's through organizations or individually, we have to reach out to our young people. Now, we're blessed today in our little audience that we have a young person, younger, that is vested in the system, but has some of the same issues with the system as her peer group, and that's how does it impact her, and how can she be engaged to help move the system along to benefit her later on. The reason why this is important to me is because if we're not running to make a better place and a better world for the younger people, which means we have to listen to them and we have to bring them into the conversation, then we're not focused on the right things. And they will quickly realize that, and they will also quickly drop off. So to our audience member, to Shay, first of all, thank you for being here and thank you for bringing some of those issues up. And we want more people to come in, to call in, to respond, to give us questions, give this body here of whoever it may be questions so that we can address your points of view, the concerns that you have, whether it's how do you pay for education, how do you prepare yourself for a job, how do you cover healthcare costs when you turn 27 and you're no longer on your parents' insurance, but yet you're struggling to get a job because of the healthcare problems that you have. Those are key issues to our young people. What type of job should I go for and what type of education do I need? And how do I pay for that education without having a home mortgage on top of a home mortgage? Because that's how much it costs. And in some cases, it costs more to go to school than it does cost for a house.
And on what you're saying, we talk about needing educators. I was talking with some young people just the other day at a career fair. And one of the things that they were talking to us, there were a couple of them that said, I really want to teach, but I know that what it's going to cost me to go to school to be able to get teacher licensure, I will never make as a teacher enough money to ever pay my student loans back. That's not right. That's not good. It's disturbing on a level. We should all be disturbed by that. And so we move more and more people out, young people whose lives are more impacted than any of ours are going to be. And it removes them from the system because they don't think that the system is responsive to them. And it's hard. I mean, we've all been young people. It's hard. It's
Still
hard.
young. I'm only 27.
Well, see, you're way. Yeah, I feel old. It's even more disturbing when we need the buy-in. We need the buy-in to the political system, and when they don't think that the political system not just doesn't work for them, but that it can't or won't work for them, no matter what they put into it, we got to show them better. And we got to. By show them better, I don't mean tell them better. I mean we got to show them that their voice matters.
So when we start talking about issues that impact the younger generations, I'm a baby boomer. So we're coming up to the end of our reign, so to speak, in political empowerment. And then we have the next generations behind us. We hear talk about the the baby boomers sort of conceding over to the millennials. We have the other generation, and we also have Generation Z that's still out there. But are the things that we do today impact them tomorrow, right? So
Yes.
we haven't talked about climate change and what are our contributions here in Nevada towards that in improving the situation. We haven't talked about food production and just food quality. Uh, is our food as good today as it was back when I lived on the farm and I got tomatoes? And believe it or not, most tomatoes don't look all pretty like tomatoes look that we get out the store because they have some organism, and that's what they call it, organism. It's not actually the fruit that we think it is, it's an organism. How is that going to impact their bodies? How is that going to impact their health? How is the climate today impacting our young people's health, and what will that translate to in the future? We talk about healthcare costs. Well, that was healthcare costs that the baby boomers are experiencing right now. And we had real food and we had fairly decent air. But what's it going to be like for those young folks who are next up? And are we looking at that and are we doing the things necessary? For example, as Nevada grows, Clark County grows, which is where the bulk of the population is for the state, the more people that we have, the more cars that we have. We're widening the roads all the time to bring in more pollution makers. Well, how is that going to impact the health of our young people? Have we thought, should we have more electric vehicles? Should we even have smart highways? Because we have traditional highways, but we could have smart highways with smart cars, because what's the point of having smart cars with a dumb highway? But we could have them both that will increase fuel efficiency, cut down on our hydrocarbon emissions, improve the quality of air and the standard of life, and also in doing so create jobs in developing some of these technologies.
Okay, so as a millennial, there's going to be, I see a lot of things happening in my future. Like I can just see where we are now and see where we're going. And I look at it like technology is going to shift dramatically. Like if you thought technology shifted from when you were a kid to now, it's going to do that times 1,000. Like 10 years from now, we could have automatic cars that just drive us everywhere, so we don't even need to own a car. And those could all run on solar energy. But
I hope.
There's the political will to get that to a point where we expedite it instead of wait for costs to come down. And then that's the point when we invest in it. But like, there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen, and we are not prepared for it. Like if you look at the economy, what's happening right now, it's very volatile. So what could happen in the next 2 years is a recession that would make the Great Recession look like patty cake.
So
It'd be like the Great Depression again.
So one of the things that, if we believe in human capital, which I'm a believer in human capital, we have to believe in our young people, and we have to engage with our young people. You're 27. You're half the age that I am, and you're right. I've seen major I went from having a party line phone, once we got a phone, to now we have smartphones, iPhone, whatever the number that they're up to now. And so, yes, I have seen a large transition of technology and the quality of life and the way we live. But technology is changing so fast now that you're absolutely right. The changes in technology I saw took a very long time to get there. You guys are seeing changes in technology almost every 6 months. And how will that impact your life?
I've seen changes from when I was a kid. We didn't even have internet when I was a kid. I was a poor family, but this was like in the 90s. So like the changes, like millennials have a nostalgia thing that's out of this world because things have been changing so fast. Mm-hmm. We love the 90s because that's when we grow up. And when we grew up, we'd watch Nickelodeon or whatever, right? And we get nostalgic, and we're only in our 20s.
Yeah, I mean, I remember having a beeper. I know it dates me, but I remember having a beeper. I remember I was your age, actually, when I got my first cell phone, and the only reason I could afford it was because I worked for the cell phone company. And then, when we look at the way these things change, it's like I look at my phone now, and my phone is 240 times more powerful of a computer than the computer that got me through graduate school. Things change so fast, and there's a couple of points that I wanted to double back on. One is I was experiencing. It was I believe it was a radio broadcast you did, but I saw it because it was being Facebook Live, where you were talking about solar energy and geothermal and wind power, but specifically you were talking about solar energy in a sense as a means to reinvest in impoverished communities. And you were talking to a certain degree about the West Side, talking about the idea that if you've got a roof, you've got a place where we can put solar panels. And yet even a homeowner like myself, we're almost, unless we're willing to take out virtually a second mortgage, we're costed out of participating in solar energy. And I got a roof. I'm happy to have solar panels put on top of my roof to put in energy. And if I don't have to pay for them, you know what? If you want to install solar panels on my roof as a citizen, install solar panels on my roof. Save the planet. Invest in that green energy. I'm not even caring that much about my energy costs being reduced. Use my roof. There's libraries and schools. This is what you were talking about. Schools, libraries, public buildings, where the roof of every public building should have solar panels on it. And that was an idea that I heard you talk about in another broadcast that I wanted to bring up since you were talking about green energy, and I thought that was very insightful. I also wanted to double back on something that we were talking about off camera briefly, in talking about education and talking about the fact that so much of this blue wave, that if Democrats are in power, there's certain expectations that you think we should have the right to expect will go through our legislation. Can you tell us some more about that? Or am I putting you on the spot?
No, that's okay, but I did want to hit this thing on solar power, and this is where government comes into play. Nevada, about 85% of it is owned by the federal government. And one of the things I said on one of those broadcasts that you listened to is that the Department of Defense has the largest vehicle fleet in the world. It's the largest one in the world. And Nevada has a huge Department of Defense footprint. As a matter of fact, I used to work on a couple of places on the Nellis Air Force Base that had some of the biggest fleets in the state. But they all ran on regular petroleum. Now think about how much it would save in our carbon footprint and how much it would help to reduce the cost of alternative fuels. If each one of these vehicles used alternative fuel or were battery powered, and because it's such a large fleet and they have to refresh that fleet periodically because of the wear and tear on it, that massive buy then can help bring the price down of vehicles of alternative energy sources. But we use the same process in government buildings. We have, whether it's the federal, the state, counties and cities, we have all of these buildings, and that's wasted space that could be generating power. Look at any apartment complex and look at all of the overhangs that they have. They're basically flat tops. Those are places that could be generating power. Nevada actually should generate enough power so that at the end of the year, just like Alaska pays its residents a little rebate check, about $2,500, I believe, per citizen. You don't even have to be an adult, I don't think. Well, Nevada has enough sun that's beaming down on us, and we have enough flat tops, we have enough open spaces that we truly should be exporters of energy. And when I went to Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, those oil-producing countries, their gas was less than $1 per gallon because they produce it, so they keep their prices low for their citizens. Energy for Nevada residents, and especially our poor, should be greatly reduced because of the availability of solar power. And another benefit of solar power, when you spread it across a large area, is it reduces brownouts and blackouts because there's less of a burden on the grid, and there's more sources putting power back on the grid that can then be exported. We talked about microeconomics. That's a basic principle right there of how we can capitalize on this resource that we have maybe the most of any state in the union.
Hey everybody, thank you for watching Progressive Voice, an independent news and information outlet created by progressives for everyone here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I want to thank again Rodney Smith and Brian James for joining us here in the studio, and we hope to see you next time.